Beautiful day. I welcome you to our latest ISBM webinar. So we are the Institute for the Study of Business Markets, and you have joined a webinar on early stage ideation and rapid opportunity discovery for industrial companies. That's a long-winded one to tell you this is going to be a great webinar for learning how you might find spaces to focus. This is being presented by Jonathan Fegley and Ryan Laudermauch. They're both from Aperture, and they'll tell you a little bit more about themselves. So let me just go through some of my slides. There's pictures of the guys that'll be talking, and I'm on the right. I'm Lynn Gagnon, and I'm the Executive Director of ISBM, and I'll be your host today. ISBM is a network of academics, member firms, partner firms, and our team. We were founded in 1982 at the Penn State Smeal College of Business, and we still focus our research out of that group. We are the #1 institute devoted solely to B2B research, and we're the only institute that operates as a not-for-profit in order to support B2B research and B2B companies. Our community, again, is an interaction between practitioners, that is our member companies and partner firms, and our academic fellows and our researchers. We have 26 distinguished academic fellows that have been part of us since 1983 from 24 universities. These are the folks who have created and invented most of the B2B knowledge and research. Our membership community has a series of logos here, and they join us in driving the research with needs that they have identified and also incorporating new research. And they, of course, fund us. And then we have partner firms and practice fellows. Last year, we inducted our first 6 new practice fellows. Their pictures are highlighted there. And we have chosen them because they've been instrumental in being able to deliver new ideas and new ways of thinking in the B2B space to our partner firms. This is our leadership team. So on the left, you'll see Stefan, Andrew, and Gary, and they are part of our academic program, making sure that we're driving research and educating the students of the future. And then on the right, you'll see Lynn, Rand, and Ralph, and we are the focus for those that are practitioners, our member company firms. And in the center is Lori, who's in the background right now, keeping an eye on things because nothing runs without Lori. I'd like to remind you, if you're an ISBM member company, that we have just released the Handbook of Business-to-Business Marketing, bit of a Bible on all things B2B. This has been an updated 2nd edition after many, many years of the 1st edition, and this is a free to you if you're a member company. If you like a copy and you haven't gotten a free copy, please send a note to me, Lynn Gagnon, or Lori, and you'll see our emails at the end. You can go to our website and put in a contact us. You can put something in the chat window here and we'll snatch it, but let us know who you are. More importantly, tell us where to mail it. Please don't have us mail it to a company office where no one is. They'll just send it back to us. So we'll need a good mailing address, and then we'll be happy to send it to you. We also have a wealth of other information that's on B2B Pulse, and if you're a member company, you have access to this, so I'll remind you to go take a look. And then I want to give you just a short update on the calendar. So coming up next month, we start our 3rd collection of students in the ISBM B2B Mastery Track Series. This is a series of courses held over a series of months that integrates the work that you do every day, but also gives you all the fundamentals and the background so you can be a very strong B2B marketer. There's a separate course in B2B storytelling that you might find interesting, that's every week or every other day or so from March 7th to 16th. We have a marketing excellence roundtable meeting on March 23rd that's members only. And if you haven't signed up for that, please do so. On April 11, and then also in July, and then in October, Bernie Jaworski, one of our academic fellows, will be hosting a webinar series where he is just releasing a book that combines Drucker and Confucius. And frankly, it's amazing, and you will really want to be part of that. So I invite you to join for that. And then we don't have a final date yet, but we will have our fall members meeting probably in the Midwest. But again, stay tuned. We'll let you know where the location is and the timing. All right, about this particular webinar, if you want to see this later, it will be on our website, and you'll be able to go get that in the library from our site, or members can get this from B2B Pulse. And during the webinar, we'd really appreciate it if you ask questions. So you can ask questions from a variety of locations, but type into the chat window or the Q&A window. I will be personally monitoring that while the speakers are talking, and I will interrupt them if I can in time. If you type something in during the webinar to ask the question during the webinar, or you can type questions in that can be used at the end. So, but please just do interact with us through the chat window or the Q&A window. And this is our information for follow-up. I'm gonna skip to that and now turn it over to the guys. So let me unshare so that they can. All right, and I'll turn it over to whoever's got your slides.
Great. Hi, can everybody hear me okay?
They're not going to be able to answer you. So yeah.
Okay, well, great. I'll share my slides in just a second, but maybe a quick introduction. So I'm Jonathan Fegley, president at Aperture.ai. I'm here with Ryan Laudermilk as well. Ryan heads up marketing and new business development for the company. So brief background on us. So we both come from a business and consulting background. So I personally spent about 15 years in consulting, particularly innovation, strategy, and market research consulting. Worked with many companies, large and small, many global Fortune 500 types of companies. And struggled for many years on how to help companies, particularly industrial companies, effectively identify new opportunity areas kind of at the front end of innovation. You know, we had seen many different examples, even companies that are sort of lauded as being world-class in this department, really struggle, spending enormous resources, you know, having large teams of people or large, you know, expensive consulting firms working for months and months and months on end, trying to turn up promising new opportunity areas with a very low hit rate and just an overall a very high resource intensiveness, lots of spending, to the point where we had seen over the years different innovation and marketing groups actually be disbanded or be reorganized because the approach was just seen as unsustainable. So we thought there had to be a better way. And going back about 7-8 years, we started doing some data mining and machine learning to try to speed this up, automate it to some degree, and really leverage all of the growing computing power and data availability that's out there. In 2019, we spun out as a separate company, as a startup company with some investment, and really with the goal of trying to address this problem. So I'm just going to share my my screen here. Let's see.
I guess just for a sense of geography, John and I, we met in Cleveland. That's where most of our team is based. And I'm currently out in Colorado, but we have a nationally dispersed team. So we're kind of always working on different time zones, and you know, we're happy to work with companies all across the world and have to, you know, over the past 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. So so if you guys can see my screen, this is really the core problem that we're trying to solve, that companies, particularly, as I mentioned, industrial companies, but really all types, lack actionable insight at the front end of innovation, which really constrains their ability to identify new areas to grow. So our unique take on this, if you can see this slide, is that, you know, we, as I mentioned, we leverage data mining and machine learning specifically to try to get at two things. One is identify where there are problems and unmet needs in the market. So some people call them customer pain points, jobs to be done, you know, technical challenges, lots of different words for this. And we try to identify where there are important and unmet needs broadly across the world. And then we try to match that or overlay the unique technical capabilities of our clients onto that data to try to find relevant opportunities at the front end. So why problems? There's been a lot that's actually been written on this. There's a lot of discussion in the innovation community, in the design community, even in the research and development community around starting with the problem. The problem is the most tangible, concrete, and sort of specific thing to begin with when trying to identify a possible opportunity for innovation or new product development. So we like problems for a variety of reasons. One is that they're very concrete and specific. If you identify a customer problem, it's something that's tangible. It's not just sort of like a general market that you might go after, or kind of like a generalized mega trend in some cases that people chase. A problem is something very specific. It's focused on customers. It has specific, by definition, it has companies or end users attached to it. It's as close to sort of as first principles as you can get. So it sort of looks beyond, okay, what's out there now in the world? What have people tried to do to solve this problem? It kind of strips all that away and looks at the fundamental thing of what are customers, what are users or end consumers trying to do, and what are they struggling with? They're actually discoverable, and we'll talk a little bit about how you can use different tools like ours to be able to find these. And then I think testable is the last thing. It's something where it's sort of similar to concrete and specific, but if you develop a hypothesis around a problem, you can immediately go and do some additional research on that area to go validate that it is in fact real, that it is valuable, that it hasn't been solved yet, and so on. And it's actually a very good starting point for the downstream research that people do in the innovation process. So just a quick note about us and sort of our unique take on this. So we're trying to get at problems and trying to match those to kind of unique technologies and solutions in the world. We bring several different kind of technical capabilities and tools to bear on that. So one is we leverage broad data mining capabilities. So we scan about 150 million different data publications and sources. So this ranges from web data, website data, news, trade journals, trade publications, patent data, research articles, conference proceedings and presentations. We really try to capture a broad set of data that covers early stage to later stage, and also a variety of different end markets. We use some we've developed some proprietary machine learning models to actually extract only the bits of things that we care about from all this data. We have an automated ability to recognize what's actually being talked about in the text, in the data. So we can recognize all of the different markets and products and materials and different concepts that people are discussing kind of automatically from the text. And then we have developed a number of different kind of unique analyses and metrics to try to get at the stuff that matters the most. So things that are going to be the most pressing and important problem areas, the most trending or newest problem areas, the areas that are best fit for our clients' technology. All of these things are sort of unique analyses that we've developed. And the last bit about us is, we do this custom, this analytics for clients. We are sort of developing some stock analysis and stock reports that we can sell kind of in a syndicated way. But we also do a lot of custom analytics on behalf of our clients. So we'll do this analysis and then we'll deliver it to clients in the form of kind of published reports and also access to our software tool so that the two can actually go kind of hand in hand. We give people a summary report of what we found, but we also link that to our software so that if you want to go or your team wants to go learn more about anything that's in the report, you can actually go drill into the underlying kind of trends and actually individual even data sources backing up our analysis. So it really lets you kind of dig in depth. So happy to talk more about our kind of our offering and the specifics there. But really, I wanted to organize the presentation today around a real case, a real company's need, and show how we use our data to address their need kind of start to finish. It'll introduce you to a little bit about our process and really hopefully the value of what we offer. So I'm going to give you a client situation here. So we were recently working with a company that was looking to try to identify, in their words, dig sites. They wanted to have a faster way to identify new areas of opportunity that they could go launch an exploratory project around. They basically said, we have decent ways to go deep once we know where to dig. We can go do talk to customers, we can go do all kinds of research, but we don't have a good way of finding those areas to start these projects, and it takes us too long. This particular company was a multi-billion-dollar, very large company, materials and components company, very innovative. They had lots of kind of leading markets, leading products. They serve lots of different end markets. It's actually one of the challenges for them, and I think industrial companies in general, is just the sheer breadth of possible end markets that they serve and that they have to be expert in. They had a very robust ongoing process kind of for identifying new applications. But again, they were looking for a kind of a faster, more economical and more effective way to kind of feed the very front end of this process. So I'm going to get into how we address it, but maybe just to offer a question to the audience. Would love to know, for those of you that struggle with this type of problem or question in your own jobs, like what are the main tools, processes, resources that you would bring to bear on something like this? Oh, it looks like we've got the answer keyed up here.
Yep. So this is for folks to click on. So if they would please answer the ones you've got listed. I just queued it up so they can click on the answers. And if you're a participant in this webinar, you can click on these and answer for us. And if you'd like to read the answers, that's fine. Okay, here we go. Good job, everybody. Good job clicking. I knew you could do it.
It's very fast.
We have about half of the participants. I'm just going to wait for another second or two in case folks are figuring out that they just need to click on that, and we'll capture their response.
Yep, and I think you can choose all of the different ones that apply here.
Pull up and down and see. All right, we've been at it for about a minute, so I'll just end the poll, and here comes the results. So now you guys should be able to see the results.
Great. Yeah, looks like a lot of primary research, market research reports. Yep. A little bit of everything, really, but definitely many of the big ones here. Looks like, yeah, primary research, market research reports were kind of the big winners here. Not surprising. I guess one more question would be, if you do this type of work at your company, what do you typically budget for this type of work?
Okay, here comes a new poll.
Obviously, the monetary budget is only one aspect of this, but trying to just sort of generally I identify how big of how resource intensive this is for your company.
All right, wait for maybe a couple more responses. There we go. That's about the same number of responses we had in the last poll, so I'll end it and share that with you.
All right. Well, it looks like nobody doesn't do this type of work, so that's good. We've actually run into a fair number of companies that don't actually do a lot of this. Looks like the majority is probably in that $50,000 to $100,000 range. Now, of course, there's probably a lot of follow-on questions of what that really covers and how broad that would be across your company. But I think this sort of makes sense broadly from what we've seen. I think the reality of this is that there's a lot of, like, if we go back to the major tools that people use, a lot of these, what we see is there's sort of two ends of the spectrum. There's often the really expensive, really resource intensive tools here, like primary research, voice of customer, going to, lots and lots of conferences and trade shows. Hiring external consultants can get very expensive very quickly and generate, valuable insight, but very expensive. And then on the other hand, you have, sort of quick and dirty, market research reports, brainstorming efforts, maybe some online research that while quick and perhaps a little bit more inexpensive, can be tedious and also can just be very superficial in terms of the actual insight that you get from it. Just a couple of points that we've heard from people on this front. We recently talked with somebody who's an innovation director at a venture accelerator. So they try to identify new actual startups to found, and then kind of put them through their incubator, their accelerator process, and then spin them out from a company. So they do a lot of very broad exploration via sort of voice of customer and jobs to be done analysis. And they basically said in their last round, they had a team of multiple people spending, I think he said, between 6 and 9 months on this effort. They interviewed dozens and dozens of people and kind of aggregated all of that insight. And he said that they did find some interesting opportunities. I think they had, 3 to 5 or so viable opportunities come out of that effort. But given the amount of time and resources that they spend in it, they basically said it's completely unsustainable. Like, they cannot do it that way again. So they were really looking for new ways to do this. We talked with somebody at an innovation consulting firm who basically said similar to this. The voice of customer work he does a lot of user research and user observation type of work. That's essential. But again, it's not economical to do at the front end. Once you have a specific area to go deep on, then it becomes the way to do this work. But they really lack a way to kind of look broadly. And then we spoke with somebody. This is kind of more along the lines of companies who don't do this. We talked with somebody at a food products company, and they basically said they've had efforts to do this type of work in the past, and they just abandon it. They don't do it anymore because it was never producing enough success for the investment that they had. So just really a lot of challenges on doing this well and doing it kind of in an ongoing, sustainable way. So I think this maybe illustrates even a little bit more, why we see this as a problem, why this is so challenging. I'm going to talk a little bit now about kind of what we do to solve it. So basically, we, as I mentioned, we use data mining kind of at the heart of what we're doing in analytics to try to solve this, to try to create a faster, more efficient process. And there's sort of 3 steps that we do. So 1, we start by kind of analyzing the capabilities of our client. So if we were to work with, in this case, this materials company, we tried to understand what is it that really makes their capabilities unique. What are their products? What are their technologies? What are the things, where are they starting from that they might be able to leverage in a new way in some new application or market? So I'll talk about each one of these in a little more depth and show you an example. So we start by analyzing capabilities. We then kind of map broadly. We lay those capabilities onto our entire data set and say, okay, where are those dig sites? Where are the best places to go deep? And then as a third step, we can actually go a layer beneath that and say, okay, once you identify a dig site, you can actually drill in there and immediately identify what are the big, not only the big important problems or needs in that area, but which ones best align with your capabilities as well, to kind of form that initial hypothesis for the starting point of a innovation project. So I'm going to talk about each one, starting with the capability analysis process. So this is not a new framework that we've developed, sort of looking at core, adjacent, and then sort of brand new and transformational opportunities. But starting from, your markets on one side and your technology capabilities on the other, you've got your core that are really, the current markets and applications that you serve, the current products and technologies that you offer. And then as you get out there a little bit, maybe you could leverage your products in a new market a little bit, or offer a slightly new product offering in an existing market, and so on. So this kind of market versus technology capability is a pretty tried and true way of looking at it. And most companies that we work with, of course, there are a lot of big, broad efforts trying to find the next big transformational opportunity, and that's certainly important. But we often find that those types of things, especially within large companies, fail. That often what works best is to focus on the kind of the near or the extended sort of adjacent areas, and finding those kind of nuggets that you can build into the next big business in a more stepwise, sort of like a jumping from lily pad to lily pad as you go up here. So following this sort of framework, what we do is we'll meet with our client. We'll kind of get a rough sense for what their capabilities are and how they really want to focus the analysis. Then what we do is we can actually leverage our data mining to scan the publicly available and sometimes internal documents of our clients to kind of like surface all of the different concepts that they have at their disposal, all the products that they make, all of the underlying technologies, processes that they have, the benefits and properties of their technologies, the markets that they serve, the services that they might offer. Really, we try to build a broad picture and get a sense for, if you can see on that chart, which ones are they most focused on sort of the vertical axis, and which ones are most unique to them. So those things that are in the upper right corner are immediately things that seem like they should be pretty important. So we then kind of take that the client understanding that we have in our automated analysis, and we put those together. And then what we do is we break the analysis into two parts, into kind of a market fit or market alignment, and a technology fit, technology alignment, similar to that framework that we talked about. And what that lets us do is create sort of two independent ways of viewing the world. We can say, okay, what are all of the new areas that just align with your general products and technologies? Or what are all of the other areas that are in your current markets right now that align with the current markets that you serve? So two sort of different ways of looking at it. So as an example, so this one right here is actually based on the client that I teed up earlier. So we actually looked at all of their technologies, and this is just looking at a very small snippet of actually hundreds of different concepts that come out of our analysis. But what you can see is there's each of these concepts is a kind of a product, a material that they make, a manufacturing process that they have, and in some cases kind of unique attributes or properties or benefits of their products. You can see a few of those at the bottom, like signal distortion and water vapor capacity. This is kind of a fairly high-tech version of it because we're working with a specialty materials company. But we've done this for companies that are looking for service opportunities, or companies that are that don't have, high-tech products to offer. So each one of these polymer membranes and flame retardant fabrics and aqueous solvents and all these things, there's hundreds of these in our analysis. Each one is actually mapped to all of the different types of this and synonyms for it. So we can broadly recognize it across the data. And then each one further is weighted in terms of its importance. And that kind of goes back to that uniqueness and focus kind of analysis that we do to say, all right, which ones of these are really, really special? And if we find something out there in the world that has to do with microporosity and polymer membranes, well, that might be a decent indication of a relevant application or opportunity. So that's more or less how we do this. Now, this is just a snippet of this. I'm just showing you the technology side. We also have a market analysis that we do because we have those two different scores, and they include hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of different terms in each thing. So you can really cast a broad net. Last thing I'll say about this is in this case, this was looking across an entire company. So we looked across this entire materials company and did this analysis to try to understand all of the things that they can do. But we often will do this on not the entire company, but perhaps an individual group or division within the company, or we'll do it on even an individual set of products. So we've had some companies that have like a particular product family or product line, and they want to just find, good opportunities out there in the world for that single technology or product. And so we can do that just as well, if not typically better on a very specific thing. So that's kind of a quick look at the capability analysis. So what we do with that, once we have that initial view done across a company or a group, then we'll go and we'll kind of map all of the different areas. We'll look across our entire database to find where are there good market areas and problem opportunity areas that really, really match with those capabilities. So just to show a little bit more of that one. So at the kind of the core of what we do, I mentioned that we do all this kind of data mining. Well, we have this massive database of technologies and unmet needs that exist. And we build this based on, I mentioned a little bit about our data sources. We scan, 150 million sources. We extract specific text where people are talking about problems and unmet needs that they're trying to solve and what the applications are. You can see in this case, there's a little excerpt here that talks about how, homes built in 2021 burn 75% faster than they did in the 1980s. This is an actual example of something that our machine learning models automatically find, but we find tens of millions of these across all of our different sources. And then what we do is we tag them to understand really what they're talking about, and we group and cluster them together. So what that lets us do is that lets us find which applications and even which problems within those applications are being talked about a lot, which ones are trending in our data, which ones are really important, which ones have a lot of companies working on them. We can kind of do this aggregated analysis on our data. This data is always cranking and kind of updating in the background. So we're scanning the entire world and building up this sort of fundamental database that we have. And then this is the data that we can draw on when we go to do an analysis for a client. It's already prepared. We just have to know how to kind of ask the right questions of it. So again, going back to, we developed this view of our clients' capabilities and products. Now we can lay that on top of this data and say, okay, where are our problem or application areas or market areas that are not only just important from an external standpoint, but where are there ones that map onto our capabilities? So we can do sort of an analysis now and look at lots of different factors in our data. So we can say, we have lots of different categories of how we cut and dice this. So we can look at what are all the product areas or component areas that are best matched with our client? What are all the individual technologies or service areas out there in the world that are mapped with our client? The materials and chemical areas. You can see in the others, we can map it by industry, by place, by megatrend, by problem area, sort of broad clusters of big problems or opportunities, and then by company or university as well. So we have a lot of organizations in our data. So we can basically, once we overlay this, we can cut and dice our data however we really want to. And then what we can do is, let's say we're looking at the product areas out there in the world that might match with our capabilities. We can now analyze that in lots of different ways. So we have some standard metrics on the left, like, okay, are these new? Are they trending areas? Are they getting a lot of attention? Is there a really intense set of problems or needs there? There's lots of kind of external factors that we can look at. And then, as I mentioned, we can also look at customized factors for our clients. So how well does the area fit with your technology or your markets? How often or how much are your competitors working on it? How much are your customers, your current list of customers, working on these product areas or problem areas? So there's a lot of kind of standard and customized metrics that we can layer on top of this. So going back to the example that I gave before of market versus technology, that framework, and the company that we talked about, this materials company, looking, okay, where do I go? This is actually, real data, looking across all of our data, thousands of different things. We can build a chart that says, okay, how far are all of these, in this case, we're looking at product and sort of technology areas. How far are they from my technology capabilities or from the markets that I cover? And you can see in this case, I've got sort of the current ones, they're sort of core, sort of blocked off, like they kind of knew a lot of those areas and didn't want to focus on them. They wanted to look at the adjacent spaces. So if you look at up to the top, you can see these areas that are really a strong fit for their current products and technologies, but potentially in markets that they don't serve. So you can see things in here around photocatalysis, rollable displays, different types of adhesives, physical therapy robots, foldable OLEDs, all sorts of different things in here. And I've just got a few of them kind of labeled and shown on this chart because it starts to get to be sort of data overload. But very quickly you can see, you can get a view of, okay, are there areas here that are kind of jumping out to me that would be worth digging into? And then on the other side too, I can look at areas that are a pretty close-in fit for my existing markets, but a little bit maybe further out in terms of maybe I don't have existing products or heavy technologies in that area. So here you can see things around the cement industry in particular for this company, different apparel and clothing items, some medical applications in here. One of the big ones in here is that came up that was actually of interest to them was the whole area of decarbonization, which you can see kind of the bigger pink sort of salmon colored bubble there in the middle. Decarbonization really came up high in terms of kind of fit with the client, but also important in the world as well. So that was an area that they wanted to dig into in greater depth. So I'm actually going to go in and show you. So once we decided, hey, we want to look at, well, what's underneath decarbonization? We can actually peel off the next layer of the onion and say, what are the opportunities that might be there for me in that space? So on that third point, looking at decarbonization again, what we're able to do is look at this in a couple of different ways. So one way we can drill into decarbonization and we can immediately look at, okay, what are on the left here? What are those, right now I'm just looking at sort of product and technology areas. What are those product and technology areas that are best mapping onto my technology? And here you can see things around different types of, I don't even know what well interventions are, honestly. Separation membranes, oil fields, photocatalysis, different types of like desalination, for example. So we actually have a list that I'm only showing kind of the top, a hand-picked top, maybe 10 or 15 there. but there's actually hundreds that come up in terms of the fit with their technology. Looking at the market side, similarly, we can just look at, okay, there's a bunch of things going on related to decarbonization that are hitting their existing markets. This particular client had a heavy presence in the kind of concrete cement production industry, as an example. And so you can see, very big issues and fit around Portland cement, around concrete production, but other things as well here. So around molten salt storage and nuclear reactors, they had a decent energy and utilities footprint as well. And then, of course, you can even look at it completely separate from capabilities. So you could just look at, okay, within decarbonization, what are some of the most intense problem areas? So here we're seeing a lot, things around challenges related to hydroelectric energy, direct air carbon capture, which is a big trending area. Well bores is again coming up there, a variety of other things. What this problem intensity is looking at is actually, it's kind of a combination of how much are people talking about problems in this area, how trending is it, and how sort of severe is the language that people are using, like how dire, how significant is the need there. So it's wrapping a bunch of things together to kind of get at where there might be strong opportunity. So there's a lot of different ways that we can cut this. And of course, you can line them all up together to say, looking across all of these, where are the best areas that might fit with multiple different metrics as well: product fit, market fit, and other external factors. Just to drill into one, so let's say similar to before, I saw decarbonization on the chart. Here I'm saying, okay, well, what's going on related to decarbonization and the cement industry? I'm just curious. I want to know what the opportunities actually are under there. Using our data, you can immediately drill in and say, okay, what are those problem areas? And so what you're looking at on the left here is now just a view of the problematic areas that people are discussing at that intersection of decarbonization and sort of cement production. And what you can see is sort of intensity, just like I showed on the previous slide on the vertical axis here, and overall fit, the kind of market and product fit with our client. Just as another example of analysis that you can do. And so what you'll see in here are things coming up way over towards the right around structural integrity and issues around sort of like the actual strength and long-term durability of concrete. But then you'll see more on the pollutant side or the intensity side is issues around things like the energy intensity of this area, the carbon footprint associated with cement production. There's a variety of different things being talked about. Just to give you a couple examples to call out that we actually see in the data. So there are significant concerns, and many of you may be aware of this, around how to decarbonize the cement production industry. It's extremely energy intensive and actually releases a lot of carbon during different steps of the processes. There's a lot of people trying to work on cement alternatives, looking for more like green cement alternatives like geopolymer concretes, or trying to develop more cost-efficient carbon capture technologies that they can actually use in cement production facilities. And then, so that there's a whole set around trying to decarbonize the cement industry that is decently relevant to what our client does there. So that in and of itself was very interesting. But then we also found, kind of less expectedly, things around issues with cement performance and concrete performance itself. So looking to make concrete more resilient, more self-healing, really around issues related to corrosion and leakage concerns in using cements for carbon sequestration in wells and in different aspects of trying to basically take the carbon out of the air and bury it underground. So there was a lot of opportunity for cement additives, cement, and different types of treatments and coatings and formulation opportunities there that were actually interesting to our materials client here. So two very different kind of themes coming out of this, and a lot of additional things kind of buried underneath. But what this allows you to do is just very quickly click on that area and immediately see, what are the problems that people are talking about and which ones might present an opportunity for my company. So that's just, very brief. I showed you just a little bit about how we approached this for our client. Really, the goal for them was to give them, I just showed you one area around decarbonization and cement production, but really, we can rapidly map hundreds and hundreds of different areas and immediately allow people to kind of drill into those to kind of learn more about what the opportunities might be in those specific areas for them. So I just showed you kind of one very narrow view of this, but there were a lot of different areas of opportunity for this client, and looking to kind of make this kind of a more integrated part of their ongoing process, because it's really a lot faster than the way that, and more effective than the way that they were doing this today. So I guess, in sort of summation, I'll kind of leave you with a couple of thoughts. So this was a comment by Greg Sattel, who wrote a number of different innovation books. He talks about kind of the front end of innovation and where the best ideas come from. And he says they basically always come from a response to an important problem. And what actually sets the most innovative companies apart is how aggressively, how consistently they seek out new problems that they can apply their capabilities to solve. So I think it's sort of very, very relevant to kind of the conversation that we're having today. So what we do, again, is we do this sort of custom analytics for folks. And really, I think the value proposition for what we're doing, there's a couple things. One is, I believe that the insight that you can get from our data is just completely unique. There's really no way to look broadly across the world to see what are the problems, what are the unmet needs that people are struggling with right now. And actually building up an analysis from the bottom up in a fast way that you can base some of those early stage decisions on. We can also fully customize it. So this isn't just like stock reports where we're just talking about general problems in this or that industry. We can actually layer on, we can drill into specific topic areas that are of interest to you. So every company has their own very, very specific topic areas that they're interested in drilling into. And we can also layer on that analysis of your capabilities to kind of give you a unique lens on those areas. And again, the last thing is just the speed and the kind of the cost efficiency of this. I mean, we're leveraging data mining to kind of replace what you used to have to do. And as many of you attested, the kind of the old-fashioned manual way of manually scouring the internet or going out and talking to dozens and dozens of folks across the industry to try to get a broad view, and still possibly not even getting a comprehensive view of what the opportunity space might look like. So it's our hope that we're in the order of 10 to 100 times faster than doing this the manual old-fashioned way. So I guess that with that, that's kind of that's the story that I have. Happy to answer any questions on specific analyses that we did, or the approach in general, or really whatever's on your mind.
Great. Well, we have had a couple of questions come in, so I'll throw them out and you guys could answer. The first question that comes in is, so can you tell us about how this compares the results, not necessarily the process of getting there, but how do the results compare to other methods?
Yeah, I think that I don't know that we have a great perfect apples to apples comparison. What I can tell you is that in some cases we've worked with clients where they kind of wanted to run a test to see, how quick, how much can I replicate what I did the old-fashioned way with this. And we did some projects where we were able to, in a matter of a few weeks, turn up most of what was on their hit list from months and months and months of a whole team working on a project. I can't say that we're always perfectly comprehensive. There are always things that I think you can identify that are not going to be perfectly covered by our data. But we can replicate a similar kind of hit list, I would say, much, much faster. The other thing is we have also uncovered many specific opportunities that were completely new to clients. So where they have been combing over a space for months and months, if not years, and just looking at it with this sort of lens, they find just a tidbit. They find a niche application, a problem that they had no idea about, despite talking to customers, despite combing over all the research in the area, despite all of the traditional methods. So I think that this does allow you to find completely unique and different things that you might not be able to find with any other kind of method as well. I mean, there are always limitations to what you can get, with a kind of a data mining approach. But I do believe that we've had many different success stories where we've been able to turn up things that were previously unknown.
Okay. Are there specific markets where this data mining system works really well and markets that are not so useful?
Yeah. So I think that, yes, so the short answer is absolutely. I think that some of it is driven by the available data sources and the data sources that we have access to. And some of it is at this point probably more driven by the types of companies that we've mostly had experience working with. So those are kind of the two factors that drive this. But what I guess the answer to your question is, because of those factors, typically you're going to find that this type of approach works or our approach works very well in kind of higher tech areas where you're dealing with highly engineered products and technologies, not as many like trade secrets. So you'd want, things where people are actually talking about needs that they have in the industry. We tend to do a lot of work around kind of more hard goods, things like electronics or things like clean energy, medical devices, lots of kind of like built, engineered products and markets like that. We do less work around things like pharmaceuticals, like the details around specific pharmaceutical opportunities, and sort of maybe some things like that. Also, we don't do as much in kind of a purely consumer area. So we have done some work. I mentioned sort of food products and there have been like consumer products. We've done building materials and things like that that are a bit more consumer driven, but we generally don't do as much like just straight up fast moving consumer products, where you might want to be leveraging Twitter feeds and things like that to be able to really understand what the end users want.
Great. We have a couple more questions. I'm going to try and fit them in. One was, early on, you'd mentioned poor hit rates. So do you have any data around hit rates for this? Like what would be a profit growth that you might have seen for one of your clients using this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't know that I can honestly estimate profit growth. I mean, we have different, a sense for kind of hit rate in terms of number of opportunities that make it to different stages in the innovation process and which ones might ultimately go and become a product that's launched in the market. But honestly, we haven't been, I don't know that we have long-term enough data to be able to say we have X number of products that have hit the market and generated this type of return.
Okay.
We have done some pilots with different companies where they have estimated the amount of total addressable revenue that they've gotten from the effort. And you know, in general, I would say, yeah, I don't know. It's a bit hard to estimate. I'm happy to maybe follow up with some more details on that one.
Mhm. You may be an alternative because there's a piece of this that feels like I'm just looking for a frame of reference to know whether it's useful to me. Do you have clients that have come back and done it again to get yet another market? Do you have repeats?
Yeah, that's actually a big part of what we're doing. There's different ways that we do this, but often we don't usually do like a single project one and done like this start to finish.
Mhm.
Sometimes we'll map capabilities, and it's sort of an option to like map all the different domains in the world. Often what happens is we have a lot of clients that already know the spaces that they want to drill into. So they say, oh, we've decided we want to look at what are opportunities in, you know, like decarbonization or, you know, wearable devices or electric vehicles or whatever it is, right? They have a topic in mind and they want to go deep there. And so that's kind of like one type of, we'll do the capability analysis and then we'll do that one snapshot there. But then they have, usually most clients that we work with being larger companies, they have dozens of different areas that they're interested in trying to understand. So that's kind of the model, is to be able to kind of keep drilling in on lots of different areas quickly.
Mm-hmm. Great. And then one more question, just as a perspective. So like start to finish, or start to, here's where the company really has to take it from there because you've done what you can do. How much time does it take, or how much people time, or how many people?
Yeah. I hate to say it very much depends. But what I can say is, you know, what we typically, so the capability analysis portion, we can do that very quickly. It's really often determined by, you know, the availability of folks on the client side to kind of help us get the initial view and refine the analysis. But for that portion of it, it's something like a week to 2 week turnaround time for us, start to finish, with maybe a few hours, maybe 2 meetings, you know, 2 hours or so of client time to be able to get that done. Mm-hmm. The domain mapping thing, that's sort of an option. That's for companies who really don't know where to look. Like, where do I even go? I don't really have ideas. And typically that sort of start to finish, where we'll typically generate kind of a report based on that finding. There's a little bit of back and forth that goes. That's you know, a 3 to 4 week process, but very little time from the client on that one. And then the final one, this is really where we spend most of our time, is the kind of, we sell what we call spaces, which is kind of these drill-ins on different industry areas. To do a single space, like if you said, I want to know what are all the opportunities for me in carbon capture, or, you know, or autonomous vehicles or something, for us to build that space for you and provide it to you, there's a few week turnaround time on it. And then it's really, we'll generate a summary report for you that's very easy to consume, so you can share that around and kind of get people tantalized by what are some of the things that are in that space. So however, you can also drill into our software associated with the space as well, so you can keep on peeling the layers of the onion off to say, I want to learn more about this area or that area. And that really, the amount of time that you want to spend on that is really kind of up to you, depending on how much you want to drill in, and how many specific kind of like tangible specific ideas you're looking for as a result of the space. You know, we have folks that'll use a given space for a few hours, and they'll say, all right, I got what I need and I've got my report and I'm good to go. We've had other folks that really mine it. Like they'll have an analyst on it, usually, part-time, but they'll spend a couple hours a week, for a period of weeks, kind of drilling into it over time. The other thing is that when we do those spaces, we provide access to the software for a period of months, and the data updates each month. So sort of new things come out as our data keeps updating. So if new opportunities and kind of technology areas are going to arise, that'll get people to kind of look back at it again. So it depends, but I think there's not a lot of to kind of feed in to create, enable the process and generate the report output. There's really not a lot of client time that's required, because a lot of it again is kind of done by us and our external data-driven view.
Great. I have one more question, and we are over, so I appreciate folks that are staying. We are going to capture it in the recording, so it'll always be there. But there's one more question I think it's worth asking you guys to answer for us too, which is, once you defined a problem in a market space, are you able to connect your client to the target customer base?
Yeah, I would say to some degree, yes. So in our data, any problem area that is found is associated with the specific companies or the companies, universities, government entities that are talking about that problem. So that's immediately available in the tool. I mean, it's like literally a click away in the tool, in our software tool. So we can immediately connect you with the folks who are discussing the problem. Now, what we don't do yet is sort of speculate or connect you to a broader array of people who, might have the same problem, even though they're not talking about it, because they make similar products or they're at the similar stage in the value chain or something like that. So that's something that we do not do yet, where you might want to do some additional research to kind of build up a fully comprehensive view.
Okay, great. All right, well, good. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This has been fascinating for me, and I really enjoy getting to find unmet needs and think about those myself. So I wish I had the time to go back in and start a whole new company based on what you guys can find. I bet there's all kinds of startups that can be generated from the insights you guys have. So again, thank you so much, both of you. And on your screen right now is Jonathan's email. And if you want to do follow-up, really appreciate it. And we will sign off now. Thank you, Lori, for closing off the recording.
Thanks, everybody.